Hi, this is Ian Hill from Judas Priest, and you're listening to Backstage Access, where the real show begins.
Hey, Ian, nice to talk to you. We're here with Ian Hill of Judas Priest, who are doing a double bill with Rock and Roll Hall of Famers Deep Purple. Both bands will be making their way to Darien Lake on September 5th. How are you, Ian?
I'm just fine, thank you. And yourself, David?
I'm doing really well. Tell us about the lineup, how it came about, and who's going to go on first, and the length of sets, and how that's going to be distributed.
Well, okay. Let me see. I think it was the promoters, Live Nation, that approached ourselves and Purple. They wanted to put us together, you know. It's a co-headliner, but we're going on before them. We're going at 8 o'clock, and I think Purple are on at about 9:30, something like that. Yeah, it's going great. We did our first show last night in Cincinnati on this run. Really great show. A lot of people there, you know, a lot of young people there as well, which is great news. And yeah, we blew the roof off the place.
That sounds terrific. And the band came out with a brand new album earlier this year called Firepower. And I read actually that the band actually got into the studio and recorded it kind of like an old style way, where bands, you know, used to get in the studio and do that. Now it's really not commonplace to do that. Tell us about the old school approach that the band took in doing this record.
Yeah, well, we had two producers, Tom Allen and Andy Sneap. We decided to use producers for the first time in a while. We've been doing it ourselves. And of course, Tom's name always pops up by default really when you mention producers in Judas Priest. But we wanted a newer edge as well, you know, someone who's more up to date with the newer recording techniques and what have you. So we approached Andy Sneap, who we knew by reputation, you know, and asked if he'd mind working with Tom and the engineer Mike Exeter. They all agreed, and they got on really well, you know. Long story short, you'd have thought it probably would have been Tom that got us to come out and play live in the studio, but it wasn't. It was Andy that suggested it. I mean, for the last few albums, we've done everything separately, really, you know. Get a good drum track, and then, you know, the guitar, then the bass, and whatever. You know, there's times in the studio where there's just you there, and you're playing to what's already down. But this time, we decided to just to get the basic drum tracks down, instead of playing the drums to sort of a click track, which makes it very, very precise and very mechanical, if you know
right.
what I mean. We decided to ditch that, and then Richie and myself played along with Scott while he was putting the drum tracks down, and it really paid dividends. You get these almost imperceptible rises and falls in tempo, you know, for the different parts of each song, and it just gives it a bit of life, you know. It gives it you know, it's a more real sort of feeling. And you can really tell, you know, with some of the songs that it's, I don't know, organic, if you like.
Yeah, I think it
really did. It worked out a treat.
It's a great record. It's one of the best the band's, I believe, is done in quite a long time. Not to say that the other records weren't great either, but this, just like you said, has a more organic approach. You can really hear it in the songs, and now actually Andy, you know, is a part of the band. You know, he went from producer and you know, is filling in for Glen. And tell us how that transition went.
Yeah, well, a terrible thing with Glen, you know, his condition. He was actually diagnosed just before the last project, you know. And when we got to band rehearsals for the tour, it started out very, very rough. But as the days went on, he got better and better and better, and to the point where he gave tremendous performances on the last tour, and we were kind of hoping that was going to happen again, you know. But at the end of the first week of band rehearsals, it was apparent to everybody really that it wasn't going to happen, unfortunately, this time round, you know. But we sort of had to wait for Glen to admit it to himself, basically, that his body wasn't going to let him do it anymore, and that he did. And Andy actually he was in the rehearsal studio at the time. He'd brought some effects tapes down for us, you know. And Glen says, "Why don't you give Andy a go?" You know, I mean, he's a good guitarist. You know, we've heard his work with Hell and what have you. So we asked Andy, and after he picked his jaw up off the floor, he agreed, you know. And then he got, I think it was about 2 weeks, something like that, to get the set together. But he was a perfect fit. I mean, the thing is, he'd just done the new material, so he was familiar with that. And knowing how a song goes, you know, when you're trying to learn it, you're sort of halfway there. You know, the structures of the songs. And he's been a fan of the band as well for years, so he's familiar with the older stuff we were doing as well. So it really was a perfect fit. And of course, as the weeks have gone on, he's always been performing great, but now his actual stage presence and what is moving on as well, and he's putting some great performances now.
And speaking about Andy, when he took the spot, there was some chatter out there in the news that former guitarist K.K. Downing was upset that he wasn't asked back to take the spot of Glen. And how did the band address his comments directly to him? I think you came out and talked about it, and I think Rob said something too, but did you guys ever address him directly, or was it just pretty much a press release and that was it?
Yeah, I hadn't spoken to Ken for a while, you know, for a couple of years. But I'll say what I said before. I really don't know where he was coming from because, I mean, when he retired, we took on Richie, you know. So he's playing all Ken's parts. So it's not Ken's parts that are missing. It's going to be Glen's parts, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. And really, Ken, you know, what's he going to do? He's come over my side of the stage and play Glen's parts? I mean, I just don't know where he was coming from with it. I think it was just a bit of mischief on his behalf, to be honest. But, you know, it wasn't his job, if you know what I mean, that had become vacant. It was Glen's. And, of course, Ken and Glen are two excellent guitarists. They're both completely different in styles and sounds. And really, for Ken to be playing Glen's parts anyway, it wouldn't really have been, you know, sounded that right anyway, you know. So we went for Andy instead. We went for Andy anyway. I mean, this didn't come. I mean, we never thought about Ken for that very reason. Like I say, so I don't really know where he was coming from.
Mm-hmm. The next year, Priest is going to be celebrating 50 years. 50 years. Can you believe that?
No.
It
doesn't seem that long at all, you know.
Any details on? Are you guys looking ahead and possibly planning something pretty big with the celebration of that?
Yeah, we'll be doing something. It's early days yet. You know, we're in the middle of this tour at the moment. This takes us into next year, but we'll definitely be doing something special sooner or later during 2019.
And I want to go back to Glen. I do want to mention that the band just started doing contributing to. I think there's a Glen Tipton Parkinson's Fund where there's new T-shirts called No Surrender, and you might want to mention that so the fans are aware of it.
Oh yeah. If you can, you know, I mean, all donations from the or profits, I should say, from the No Surrender T-shirt, go straight into the Glen Tipton Foundation, and then on to the Parkinson's charities, where everyone's sort of striving to find cures for it, or at least remedies for it, you know. So it's going to a good cause. I mean, it's something that you never think about unless it's right next door to you, you know what I mean?
Right, unfortunately.
And of course, Glen being diagnosed, it hit everybody, you know, to do with the band, right smack in the face. And it's just, I mean, it's one of those terrible things. I mean, it's not as if Glen's done anything stupid, you know, he hasn't fallen off a boat or crashed his car or got whacked off the truck. You know what I mean? It's his body that's turning around and telling him he can't do what he loves to do more than anything else. And I can't even imagine what he's going through. But Glen, I mean, he's a street fighter, if anything. If anyone can get past this, you know, it'll be him. and he is showing up on tour from time to time when he's feeling well enough, and he's putting in some performances in the encores, which is great for the fans, great for us, you know, and it's great for him as well. Even if it's from a therapeutic point of view, it's great for him. And like I say, so if you can buy one of those T-shirts, you know, it's going to a very, very good cause.
Absolutely.
It affects a lot of people, you know, it really does.
And then last question I have before I let you go: when will Judas Priest get their due and be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
Oh, you're asking the wrong person.
I know that's a Rob question, but I got to ask you because you've been there obviously since the beginning. So I feel that's a question that should be equally asked of yourself.
Yeah, I don't think they're like heavy metal bands, to be honest. I mean, you one of the few heavy metal bands that were inducted was Black Sabbath, and I think it took 8 nominations before they got in. So I don't hold your breath. I'm not sure if Judas Priest got 8 nominations left in us. I don't know. But we'll see. These things come up, you know, and it's always flattering, and it's always nice to be, even when you're nominated, to be recognised by your peers. You know, it's always good news. But having said that, we don't lose a great deal of sleep when it doesn't come off. You know, we don't set our sights on things like that. I mean, our main priority is turning out good metal music and pleasing our fans.
And a great record with firepower, and we're looking forward to obviously Judas Priest along with Deep Purple coming here on September 5th at Darien Lake. And we appreciate Ian Hill for taking the time to talk to us today.
Yep, it's been a pleasure. We're looking forward to getting there.